All right, tell everybody, welcome to episode 373 or 4, I can't remember, of the Restoring Rapport podcast. This is a podcast for young believers who are pursuing the goal of marriage and family, trying to get married as young as possible in a healthy way according to God's design. My name is Seth Hensley. I come on the show twice a week, every week on Thursday and Sunday to discuss not only the benefits of getting married young, but I try to equip and encourage you in your pursuit of those goals. And today we're going to be reviewing a video by the Gottman Institute. And man, these two, John and Julie Gottman, have done a lot of work on marriages, man. They have some really cool marriage advice, marriage takes. And so I'm just going to be watching one of their videos today on 30 questions about love and kind of applying it to marriage and reviewing their good advice here on marriage. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I want to cover as many as I possibly can. The first one here that you're going to hear them talk about is basically about the joy, the intrinsic reward that comes through service and laying your life down for your partner and taking care of them and stuff like that, and how much that fixes in a marriage.
What is it about love that most people get wrong?
Well, I think my answer would be in terms of a book I just read called How to Feel Loved. And I think that's what people get wrong, is that loving is not about receiving, it's really about giving. And in the giving, you wind up receiving. But the focus needs to be on the opportunity to give love. And when you have that opportunity to give love, it's just magnificent. I'll never forget the first time I saw my daughter, and I was the first person she actually saw in the world. And there was an instant rapport, and I just felt such overwhelming love for her. And it's been that way for the past 36 years. It's a chance to love. It's a chance to open your heart. It's not a chance to receive love. And I think that's a misconception.
Julie, can love survive without admiration?
Before we listen to that second one there, just to comment on that, my wife and I became parents this year, actually, last month. This is being recorded on July 19th of 2026. But on the 6th of June, 2026, our little baby entered the world, and we kind of had that crazy moment. And it's one of those moments where, you always wonder what it's like, what it's going to be like. And then it happens, and it's like just a crazy, you've been thinking about it and looking forward to it for such a long time. And there it is, right, right there happening, And so, yeah, really cool. I like how he's describing this, but I do think he's right. I mean, my joy that I get from my daughter does not really come from what she brings me. It really comes from, it's really kind of a motivation and reward system that I think God has put in your body. Just like your body will reward you for doing good things, and it will not reward you for doing, questionable things. And so, like, you feel better when you take care of somebody, you feel better about yourself. You feel better about your purpose. You have more meaning. You experience more, how should I describe it? Like satisfaction with life and a contentment knowing that you're in the right spot, making the right calls and decisions. And so, yeah, I 100% agree with that one. That's definitely been my life experience. Let's look at number 2.
Can love survive without admiration? Not very well, actually. One of the principles that we discovered as we were doing research and then arriving at a theory is how important fondness and admiration are for really creating deep respect for your partner. And if you don't respect them, then who are they to you, right? So I would think you either feel neutrally or you feel disrespect. No, that is not going to be a sensibility that really leads you to love them.
John,
Okay, before let me comment on that one really quick. Admiration. I think that's one of the qualities that initially creates attraction. And I think that initial creation of attraction is something that you should really pay attention to when looking for a partner. I guess this is marriage advice for after that, though. But still, I'm just trying to make this personal and think about my relationship with my own wife. Could I, have a great loving relationship with her without that admiration. I don't think I could. Now there might be like a sexual component. Like I might think she's super attractive and want something with her, but I don't think that would be enough to make the relationship good in the long term unless there's that admiration, maybe. Because I do think you have to, I don't know, see the beauty in your partner in a way that, most people don't and can't, in order to have that good, loving connection. I can't imagine a good relationship with Lainey where I didn't see that about her. Is kind of how I'm thinking about that right now. And so, yeah, I'm thinking they were right on that one too. I'll let you know, of course, if I disagree with something. But I mean, these people are usually very like simple, tried and true, tested, replicatable marriage advice tips. So I'm not anticipating, but you never know.
Unconditional love healthy?
Is unconditional love healthy? I think so. I certainly feel that toward my daughter. There are no conditions. She just gets my love. I feel that way toward my wife as well, because I know her so well. And I know, in a way, I feel that way about my wife as well, because in a way there are no conditions, because I know her so well and I know her fundamental qualities and I trust in them and I trust in her love. And in a way, it's really not conditional.
I think the root behind that question, though, is unconditional love healthy? Is people who are perhaps worried about being abused, like, and continually giving love to somebody who's taking advantage of their generosity and, patience and tolerance and respect and admiration and affection. And they perhaps have experienced that in the past, and so they're worried about that, and they in their future, because your history really does impact your future, and perhaps they've what's the word? Maybe just that's troubling their mind. In other words, they're basically wondering, if I am unconditionally loving somebody, are they going to take advantage of that? And I think where this becomes important is really just like everything, a lot in the selection process. Okay. Because yes, that's totally possible. You could marry somebody who will take advantage of that. Okay. And that is not a good relationship. I don't want to say relationship. That's not a good situation to find yourself in post, vows. And so, yeah, I think just like a lot of things, the selection process here is crucial. Like, you don't need to be 99% confident that your partner is never going to abuse your unconditional love. You need to be 100% confident. You know one of those things I'm saying? And we all have failings, but there's a major difference between occasional failings and patterns of behavior that I think we need to take into consideration. You might be like, well, how do I know if somebody will turn out that way? And again, and you're saying maybe you just got to know them and you don't really know what their patterns of behavior are. I think you need to look at history. And I was concerned. One of the things I was concerned about when I was finding a spouse was being abandoned on the battlefield. Like, basically people just dipping out of the relationship whenever, either they lost the feel goods or they just weren't as committed as I was. And that had happened a couple times to me. Yeah, well, not really, just one time. Anyway, so I was worried about that happening in the future. So the one thing that I wanted to make sure of when I met Lainey was that I just outright told her. I just said, listen, I've been through a lot. I've had a lot of disappointments, with me getting close to people that I really, that I wanted to marry, and they just left. And so we cannot enter. We had the conversation. I said, we cannot enter a relationship unless I know, like, we're going to get married. Like, in other words, there are no breakups from this point on. Like, if there's a possibility that you're going to break up with me, then we're not entering this romantic relationship. We're just going to stay, getting to know each other, basically. And so she was the only person I'd ever found who was able to match me in that, with both words and actions, which is another critical thing. So I don't know. It's just that I think the confidence level you have going into your relationship here is at the start is the critical phase. Like, that's how you can not end up being abused because of your unconditional love, is by being really careful on the front end at the onset of the relationship.
Julie, is unconditional love healthy?
Depends. So, is unconditional love healthy? Well, I think in some relationships it is, in some relationships it isn't. For example, in a relationship where there's a lot of verbal abuse, there's a lot of contempt, criticism, defensiveness, maybe even some physical altercations or assaults, unconditional love is not a good thing. Love really needs to be conditional based on being treated well by your partner. And that doesn't mean being treated perfectly, because everybody
clarifier.
has their bad days. Everybody can get grumpy now and then. That's okay. But when your partner is doing something that is wearing down your self-esteem and making you feel badly about yourself, then you need to be thinking about conditions in terms of your own self-care and what might be best for you in a relationship like that.
What is
Okay.
the hard?
Okay, before they move on to the next one, I thought of a verse that I would like to share with you, and kind of the context of this. She said, love, unconditional relationships are good in some ways and not good in others. And so I'm going to put up this verse for you here where the Bible kind of talks about this, but it has I mean, I'm kind of, well, I don't know. This is complicated, but we can just talk about it. This is 1 Peter 3. Godly living is the heading. It says, in the same way, you wives, be subject to your own husbands, so that even if any of them are disobedient to the word, they may be won over without a word by the behavior of their wives, as they observe your pure and respectful behavior. Your adornment must not be merely external, braided hair, wearing gold jewelry, or putting on apparel, but it should be a hidden person of the heart, with the imperishable quality of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is precious in the sight of God. For in this way, the holy women of our times, who hoped in God, also used to adorn themselves, being subject to their own husbands, just as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, and you have proved to be her children if you do what is right, without being frightened by any fear. And then he moves on to the husbands here. He says, you husbands, in the same way, love your wives in an understanding way, as someone weaker, since she is a woman, and show her honor as a fellow heir for the grace of life, so that your prayers will not be hindered. To sum up, all of you be harmonious, sympathetic, loving, compassionate, and humble, not returning evil for evil or insult for insult, but giving a blessing instead. For you were called for the very purpose you would inherit a blessing. So the part I want to highlight is this top part, where he talks about, husbands being won over by the behavior of their wives without a word. And that to me does seem like this display of love and affection regardless of someone's inappropriate behavior, and how that can actually transform a person's life. Now that is grace in that sense. Now where I think, but I also know the situations where that Dr. John and Julie Gottman are describing, and we've all seen them, or maybe hopefully we haven't seen them, but we've at least heard of them. Sadly, a lot of us have seen them, where somebody's being taken advantage of in a marriage, and their love is being what's the word? The common religious phrase would be the husband or the wife is using their spouse's unconditional love as a license to do whatever he or she so pleases, regardless of the harm they're bringing to that relationship. And those are the kind of relationships that are really hard. So is unconditional love a good thing? I mean, okay, unconditional love I don't think means that you absolve your partner of all demands and don't place any demands on them and make any insistences. I would actually think that would be not a good idea, and that it's possible to have unconditional love by also putting demands on a relationship. Not that you ever turn your love off for your partner if they don't meet the demand, but that you really, this is so complicated, dude. That I think you can, I think it's your job to transform your partner. I think that, you know, we're all becoming more like Christ in marriages by having our weaknesses highlighted, essentially, by our partner. You know what I'm like? I'm just thinking, like, Lainey makes me more aware of my shortcomings without saying a word than I was ever aware of my shortcomings as a single man without her. I just wasn't aware, you know, like because I see the effect of my bad actions on her, and I am convicted immediately by the Holy Spirit of that. And so, what's the word? There's a demand there. It's not like she's being conditional in her love for me, but she's also not afraid to tell me what she wants and needs and what our marriage needs in order to succeed. Like, does that make sense? Like, you can say, hey, I need you to protect me in this way, and still be an unconditional source of love. And again, this goes back to the thing I said earlier of like, and of course somebody could still take advantage of you there and ignore what you said and say, well, I'm not, I know you're saying you need me to protect you, but I'm not going to do it. And you should still love me. And that would be an incredible abuse. And so it's just and that's an incredible abuse is one way of saying it. A consequential bad fruit is another way of saying that. So like this is the kind of thing you want to be super aware of before you start the relationship, because it gets a lot more dicey, if that makes sense, you know, and it gets a lot more consequential if you don't know and enter anyway. You know what I'm saying? So very cool. But they're going to say, what's the hardest thing to reveal to someone you love here?
Hardest thing to reveal to someone you love.
The hardest thing to reveal to someone you love is how you messed up and what your own responsibility was for the miscommunication. And taking responsibility is really tough. It's much easier to be defensive and say, I'm innocent. It's all your fault. But to see your own side, you know, how you play into the miscommunication is really tough to admit to. But when you do, good things happen.
Julie.
Okay. Before they ask this question to Julie, I wanted to share with you guys another really great marriage advice that I heard that has transformed my wife and I's connection, and it's by Danny Silk. He said this a long time ago. He said most of the time and I'm not exactly quoting him here, but this was the idea of what he said. He said most of the time couples don't have a communication problem; they have a connection problem. And they think they have a communication problem. And that to me rang so true. Usually the reason that there's a fight or a disagreement or a dispute or a source of discontentment or, you know, somebody's not happy with the relationship in some way. Usually the reason that that's happened is not because you're miscommunicating or communicating inappropriately or communicating ineffectively. It's rather that you're not even on the same team anymore and you're not looking out for your partner's best interest and your partner's needs and wants and desires, and they're not looking out for yours anymore. Instead, you're back on two separate teams. You're fighting for your comfort and what you want, and your husband or your wife is fighting for what he or she wants. And that's really the problem. When you depart from the oneness that Scripture describes, the great mystery of two becoming one flesh, and you move back into your old ways, the old man of like trying to get what you want, your individual self, what your individual self wants, and not trying to get what your partner wants and what the union wants, that's when marriages really, really fall apart. And it does, if you're in that situation, it doesn't matter how effectively and respectfully you communicate, because basically what you're doing is you're respectfully making an argument for why you should get a cookie and your partner shouldn't. Does that make sense? And I think this is what people are doing. And the problem is not that you're being disrespectful. The problem is you're not trying to feed your partner. You're trying to feed yourself. And I don't mean yourself in the sense of your one unified marriage. You're trying to feed your individual self and not your marriage and not the union and not your partner. Okay? And that's just basic selfishness. So the problem, it doesn't matter how effectively you're communicating your desire to eat the cookie. if you're not trying to feed your partner the cookie and feed the marriage the cookie, and a cookie might be a bad example. Let's say, like, let's just use the food analogy, make it more healthy. If you're not trying to sustain the marriage and instead you're trying to sustain your own individual impulses and fleshly desires, then it doesn't matter how respectful you communicate that. It's still not going anywhere good. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, let's use an extreme example to make it easier to understand, which you guys probably already understand what I'm saying, but I'll just, you know what, I'm on a talk show. I might as well just give this analogy or make it more extreme so it's very apparent what I'm trying to say. Like, let's say one partner, it doesn't really matter who, a man or a woman, comes to the other and says, hey, and they're so respectful and they're so polite and they're like, hey, I really think you should give me a hall pass for me to cheat on you this one time, and here's the reasons why, and I'm being so thoughtful in my communication to you here, and I'm being so respectful in how I ask this. And you can see kind of the hilarity of that statement, because they're fighting not for the union, they're fighting for what they want. It doesn't matter what manners they use, or what psychological like tricks they employ in order to get what they want. It's still wrong. It doesn't matter how nice they say it, they're still asking for something wrong, and something that hurts the union and not helps the union. And so that's kind of the issue that I will always remember when Danny Silk said that. I mean, that's really that explains it. That's what it comes. All marriage problems usually go back to that fact that two people are usually fighting for. They don't feel protected or prioritized or like their partner is fighting for them. Instead, they feel like they have to, or they just want to. They want what they want. And they have not matured to the point that they're sustaining a union instead of themselves, and they are willing to sacrifice the health of their union in order to get what they want in that thing. So, yeah, let's continue.
What kind of intimacy matters more? Emotional, intellectual, physical, or spiritual?
I think there's no good answer to that because it's a very individual thing.
But here's another thing. I'm gonna interject real quick. You don't have. It's a false dichotomy to say you get that or you don't get that. Like, no, that's the wrong way of saying this. It's not implausible to have all of the intimacy in all of those departments. Like, you don't have to just pick between one or the other. There's, like, you can find somebody who's willing to build all of them with you, and you don't have to basically pick one over the other, is what I'm saying. And I know that because my wife and I she's amazing in all departments. I'm happy to report.
Well, really have to have physical intimacy be, firecrackers, just fantastic. Fireworks in the sky, and other people really need to discuss ideas and things they've read and classes they're attending. Other folks really need to be listened to at a heart-to-heart level, deeper emotion being expressed, and the other person really absorbing it and understanding and empathizing with that. And spiritual, I think, is super important too. But spiritual tends to be a little bit more individualized, I think. Unless somebody is part of an organized religion that they love to attend services of, and they really want their partner to accompany them to those services.
But do you see kind of where that question comes from? Like, which is more important, emotional, physical, spiritual intimacy? Kind of that's coming from, I think, a place of, like, somebody who's sacrificed one or the other and is now feeling the result of that bad decision and getting some bad fruit that they don't like the taste of. And then they're basically trying to, they think they made a mistake in not getting the other one instead. But really, the instead word is the problem there. I think you should have good connection with your partner on all those levels. I think that's something you can know before you ever tie the knot. Again, just using a little bit of wisdom, foresight, and understanding the Proverbs. And so just kind of thinking before you act and not yielding on red flags and not entering a relationship with somebody who has shortcomings that you're not satisfied with. Like, I feel like I don't know, you don't have anybody to, okay, personal responsibility here. You don't have anybody to blame but yourself for not having those things, because yeah, maybe your partner's not doing A, B, or C correctly in whatever scenario, but you signed up to marry that person, So it's like, I mean, they told you their actions, their words, the history that they've had that you're aware of, how they interact with other people. Everything was telling you who they were, and you chose to sign up for this relationship. So if you're not satisfied with it, I mean, that's on you, man. You picked it, you married them. I'm not excusing the shortcomings they make, but like, okay, it would be irresponsible for me to say, my wife's good in this department, but she's not good in this department. Like, I should have gone for somebody who was the opposite. And it's like, no, I should have gone for somebody who was good in all three departments. And it's my fault for settling for not even settle. That's an overused word, but I guess settling for somebody who doesn't have everything I wanted. Cause I did that. That's on me. I proposed, or I said yes. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter for the guy or the girl here. Interesting though.
Well, okay, then spirituality might be the best form of intimacy. So, I think it really depends on your own particular passions and what's most important to you.
John, what does true emotional safety feel like?
What does true emotional safety feel like? I think it feels liberating and freeing, almost like you can move any way you want to, and you're fine, you're accepted, and you can be yourself. I think that's what it feels like,
Yeah.
freedom.
And I think I'll add to what he said there. I think it feels like complete peace in knowing your partner's on your team no matter what. And that's something I've discovered in the last 3 years I've been married to Lainey. She's the only woman I've ever been in any kind of romantic relationship with that has ever made me feel as safe as I was giving her reason to feel safe. And that is an unbelievably good place to find yourself in. And I cannot describe how much that transformed my life. I have never worried about my wife leaving me. I have never worried about her being unfaithful. I have never worried about her quitting or dipping on the relationship. I have never worried. I'm in total peace of that. And I cannot describe to you the miracle that will work on your marriage, guys. I just really can't. Like, you want to have every confidence in your partner, and the peace that you have in that is truly remarkable. It really is.
Julie, what are people secretly begging for in relationships?
I think it's reassurance that they're loved. I think that's really what people are wanting, and yet they may be too ashamed to ask for that. Perhaps they grew up in a home where they were not treated with love. Not everybody has perfect parents, that's for sure. And they are insecure as adults.
Yeah.
So even when a partner has told them they love them, initially especially, working up to commitment in the relationship, people still need to hear they're loved, because those little insecure moments keep cropping up. And during those, when we don't feel so great about ourselves, that's a wonderful time to know that our partners love us.
Well said. Yeah, well said. I mean, I totally agree with her. I think that really, she hit the nail on the head there as far as diagnosing the problem. I think that I might have a little bit of a hot take here. I think that insecurities are usually, in this context, only this context, by the way, I'm not talking about other insecurities, but insecurities about being loved are usually there for a reason. Okay. And not even usually, sometimes. Okay. Like, if you're worried about your partner's ability to commit or provide or love you and be faithful to you, I don't think that's something that is irrationally present without cause. I think your neurological, system, your brain, your deduction skills, your inferences, your observations are incredibly at a very high level as a human being when it comes to this issue, because this is one of the things that can hurt you the most. And so your entire like soul is making a very serious decision based on information that it is very good at observing. So I think like usually if you're insecure about your partner's commitment or attachment or love for you, they're giving you a reason to feel that way. And I would encourage you, again, back to the starting point, square one. Just be very careful who you enter a relationship with, because it makes everything easier to fix. It's a lot harder to change a person who's not committed on the other side of a vow than it is to just not make a vow with somebody who's not committed, if that makes sense. And so I'm just like trying to get you guys to, I don't know, marriage is the most amazing, beautiful thing that you can possibly do when it's done right. and I think scripture's clear on that. And it's also one of the most dangerous things in the whole world when it's done wrong. So just be really aware and be confident, and don't, if those insecurities are there, maybe address them and don't move it forward until they're completely gone. And I mean de-atomized. I mean, there's no trace of them bothering you anymore. Okay? Yeah. I might end there, guys, because they're only about halfway through the video here. Especially because they're getting into heartbreak and stuff, and that stuff I've already talked about a million times before. You can go back and listen to the heartbreak episodes I've done, just how to handle heartbreak, Seth Hensley, or restoring rapport. It'll come up, all the things we've talked about there. But thanks for listening today. Give me a comment of what you thought of the marriage advice in this video. Would love to hear from you. It'd make me feel super connected to you guys as audience members, and it would make this podcasting system two-way. You can do that through the YouTube comments, and or reach out and let us know what your thoughts were through the Restoring Rapport Facebook or Instagram page. Would love to hear from you there. Thanks for listening today, guys. God bless you guys, and I will talk to you next time.